Hey, it's Cole here, and welcome back to another video. Today, I got another mock draft for y'all, and this is going to be between week 13 and 14. So, we'll see what happens. I think some things have changed since I last done a mock draft. I've finally been able to look at some guys, truly scout some players, which I'm very excited about, and definitely will make more videos about that when the time comes. But let's start with the mock draft. And the Chicago Bears have the first overall pick, obviously, due to this being the Panthers, and they have the Panthers pick. And I still think this is Caleb Williams. I still think that just makes the most sense. Justin Fields hasn't blown me away this year, unfortunately. So they're in the position to get Caleb Williams. And I think Ryan Poles is going to go ahead and, I guess, technically get his guy because maybe there's a chance he could be on the hot seat next year. And I think he wants to be given another opportunity with another quarterback. And I think Caleb Williams obviously makes the most sense because he's the best quarterback in this draft. Now, the Patriots, I'm going to stick on the quarterback train. Mac Jones isn't the guy, Bailey Zappi isn't the guy, and Drake May is going to be the quarterback I think they'll draft. And I guess the question is, will they be picking here by the time the NFL draft comes? Because now they play the Steelers this Thursday without Kenny Pickett, which is a winnable game. And they probably have some other winnable games that they could win, especially with how good their defense has been this year. So I'm very interested to see what this draft order looks like. But if the Patriots can keep this number 2 pick, that would be huge for them, and they can get a franchise quarterback. Now, the Cardinals are on the clock, and again, they could very well also be moving down. They could be moving up, who knows. But I think with this pick here, they're going to have to take Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a different breed of player, and I think he's going to be my number 1 overall player in this draft board, in this draft class, because he is special. His separation, his play of strength, his obviously route running, all that stuff is through the roof. And the Cardinals need just any type of talent they can get. And I'm going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. here. And now that the Commanders are on the clock, and I think there's some discussion, but the discussion comes between Olu Fashanu, Brock Bowers, and Joe Alt. And maybe even you can throw in Leatu, but I'm going to go ahead and take Olu Fashanu. Some people like Joe Alt better. I'm an Olu fan. I love his athleticism. I think that's the thing that's going to put him over the top as a tackle, and I think as people see him, because, man, when you have elite athleticism, it's a difference maker. And I think Olu has that. So we're going to take Olu for the Washington Commanders, and they obviously need some offensive line help for Sam Howell if this is the direction they go. The Bears are back on the clock. And again, there's so many directions they could go. They could go Brock Bowers to be an absolute game-changing pass catcher. They could go edge rusher and Leatu to really help out that defensive line. They could go Joe Alt, possibly. I don't think so, but they could go Malik Neighbors. And I don't know how the NFL season, but maybe Jerzon Newton can go top 5. Who knows? But I think with this pick, I think I kept it the same last time. I think I had Malik Neighbors as the pick last time. But again, Leatu makes a ton of sense too. And I think it's between those two. And I think you're going to maybe start seeing teams kind of implement like what the Dolphins are doing. Now, I'm not saying Malik Neighbors is as fast as Tyreek Hill. I'm not too sure what his speed is, even though he's fast. But just getting dynamic playmakers who may have the same skill set, obviously, with DJ Moore. But you're just trying to get the best receivers on the field. And I think that's what we're going to see with teams and building. And obviously, it seems like the Bears want to have a good offense. Obviously, you want to. But Caleb Williams, Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, you got Cole Kmet, who's a solid pass catcher. So I'm going to give him and give them Malik Neighbors, as this is a deep wide receiver class. This is a really good wide receiver class. And it's definitely making up for the wide receiver class we had last year, at least from the before we saw them play, because I mean they had some good receivers in this draft, in this past draft, but this seems different, right? So the Jets are now in the clock, and they could go a ton of places too. They could go Brock Bowers. I think any team could go Brock Bowers, and I wouldn't be mad if that pick. I'd be like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. But I'm gonna give them Joe Alt. Ultimately, they need offensive line help anywhere they can get it, and I mean, when you think about it, they have Elijah Vera Tucker, they have Mekhi Becton, and they have some other guys, but I think don't they have Fan on their team too, if I'm not mistaken, but overall, they just need good offensive lineman. And if they want to move, I forget if Elijah Vera Tucker's playing on the outside or inside, but have him play guard. He can do that too. He can play tackle. Or if you want to, I don't know, move Mekhi Becton. It's because we don't know what we're getting out of Mekhi Becton with his injuries anymore. And that's the problem. So go ahead and get yourself Joe Alt, who's going to be a really good run blocker to start. He can pass protect, but as a run blocker, he's top notch. And I think that's going to be a little upsetting for the Tennessee Titans because I would love to see Joe Alt in Tennessee. Now with the Giants on the clock, this is such an interesting thing about this. It is the GM, I believe, said that they're looking to go best player available. So Brock Bowers is available. But the question is, do they value any of these quarterbacks? Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, I think are the main three you're going to see here be mocked in the first round until we get to the drafts, right? But Brock Bowers makes a ton of sense. Darren Waller's getting older. He hasn't really produced this year like maybe some would think. So maybe if you just want to go ahead and get the absolute best player available, go Brock Bowers. Or you could go wide receiver, which, again, makes a ton of sense, too, because they need wide receiver health. Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt just aren't getting it done, right? Or even though they're talented players, but they're just not wide receiver ones. And I think Roma Dunze has that chance to be a wide receiver one. Keon Coleman, maybe? But I think if anybody else left in this draft has a chance to be, or like you could go in and you can start him as the wide receiver one right away, I would feel comfortable with Roma Dunze. And it's very possible that we see three wide receivers go in the top 10 here. And I'm going to have Roma Dunze go to the New York Giants. And I think they're going to value that they need a wide receiver. They're going for a best player available type situation, even though that would have been Brock Bowers, based off also kind of culminating needs. Roma Dunze, I think, is the pick here. Now, the Titans, a little upset that Joe Alt didn't fall, but I think they go offensive line once again in the first round, and they select Talise Fuega, who's, again, a big offensive tackle that can absolute move people and really open up holes for the run game. And I think that's going to be huge for Tennessee Titans and Derrick Henry, right? So I'm interested to see what that looks like, and I definitely think the Titans are going to be looking to go offensive tackle or even wide receiver if Roma Dunze falls or if any of these other wide receivers fall too. But now the Saints are on the clock. It's interesting for the Saints, right? Because I would expect them to go into somewhat of a full rebuild soon. Obviously, I don't think you can just get rid of Derek Carr like that. I think a tackle is definitely a need. But I think what the Saints do here is they go Leatu, get the best edge rusher on the board because Brian Brzee has been looking good. Cam Jordan's getting a little older. He's still obviously a very good player, but you're going to want to have that replacement. And Leatu is, in my opinion, the best edge rusher, the best pass rusher on the board. And so I'm excited to see him. I think that would be a very fun little duo at the defensive line for the Saints with Brian Brzee and Leatu. Now the Buccaneers are on the clock. Again, they could also go a few places. They could go edge. What are they feeling about quarterback? Maybe, right? And I think I'm gonna have them go quarterback. I'm not truly sure where I rank all these three guys. But in Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and Michael Penix, that definitely I'll get to that soon. But I think with how good Jaden Daniels has been this year, I think Jaden Daniels is most likely going to get picked first. And I think and maybe you don't even have to start Jaden Daniels year one or just like the first few weeks. You could bring back Baker Mayfield, have him start the season next year, and develop Jaden Daniels, or you can put Jaden Daniels into the mix right away. So I think that's huge for the Buccaneers to get their quarterback of the future. So I'm very excited for that. And the Las Vegas Raiders, they could go a few places here. Jazon Newton to help that defensive line, cornerback to definitely help that secondary. And I think I'm going to give him a quarterback right now, cornerback. I think I'm going to have Kool-Aid McKinstry be the pick, but also you got to throw in quarterback possibly. I think that's also another thing you got to think about. I'm interested to see where these quarterbacks go in terms of positional pick instead of team because, none of these guys I don't think are like top 10 picks other than Caleb Williams and Drake May, right? But with how a few teams need quarterbacks, and maybe you saw some teams pass up on quarterbacks last year, maybe they're like, okay, we need to get a quarterback, right? And I think the Raiders are one of those teams that really need a quarterback, and you look at Ziegler, and he was like, hey, bro, I wanted to trade up for C.J. Stroud, and they didn't. So maybe they're just like, let's get our quarterback, and man, I think that's what we're gonna do here. I think I'm gonna give Michael Penix to the Las Vegas Raiders. That's not where I thought I was gonna go with that pick initially, but I think that makes some sense there. And now the Chargers are on the clock. I'm going Brock Bowers. I think you go best player available. He's kind of fallen here. I think there's a very good chance he goes top 10. But Brock Bowers I think can be an absolute game changing player in the passing game. Gerald Everett's getting older. I think he might be on a contract year. Keenan Allen's getting older. Austin Eckler is getting older, and right now he's hurt. Mike Williams is injured a lot. So, and I mean, what's the idea of Quinn Johnston, right? Like, what's the situation there? So I think Brock Bowers for the Chargers makes a ton of sense. Let him get downhill. Let him design the plays. They get him make the plays after the catch. So that's what we have there. Now the Bengals are also back on the clock, and I think they go tackle here. I guess it depends like where you value all these guys, right? I haven't fully scouted all of these, but for now I'm gonna give him J.C. Latham, and that very well changed with my grades. But I'm gonna give him J.C. Latham. I think he's a good right tackle. I think he's a first round talent, so. He's a big guy. He's a big guy, but one thing at least I found very interesting in him is that he can neutralize players who try to beat him with speed and finesse. I think sometimes that power rush can get him, but it's very interesting to see like how it kind of surprised me. You think big guy, he can stop the power moves, but he can really stop the finesse moves and speed moves, which is really impressive. And then the Bills are on the clock. A wide receiver definitely makes some sense, right? But an edge rusher also makes some sense with the whole Von Miller situation. And I guess I'm going to go edge rusher. I think it depends who you like better. Chop Robinson, Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, maybe Raylan Trice or JT Tuamalu. But I'm going to give Chop Robinson to the Bills, and that's going to be their pick there. The Denver Broncos, I think, is also a very interesting pick. I don't think they go quarterback. They could, but I don't think they go quarterback. Wide receiver is definitely an option, I guess. Where do you see all these wide receivers going? Because this would be the fourth wide receiver in the top 10 or in the top 15, which I think would be an interesting thing to see. I just don't know if they would go Keon Coleman, though. That's the thing. Edge rusher or cornerback makes a ton of sense. I'm going to give him a cornerback, and I'm going to give him Kool-Aid McKinstry here. And that's going to be the first cornerback off the board. The Seahawks, they could go a few places as well. Edge rusher could be some place to go. They did trade for Leonard Williams. I think Jerzon Newton could make some sense here a little bit. But for the Seahawks, I'm gonna go ahead and give them. I'm gonna give them Troy Fontenot, a guy that can move inside if he wanted to. Stays in Washington. But yeah, no, I think that's an interesting pick, and I think that can make a lot of sense for the Seahawks. And then the Chargers, or not the Chargers, my bad, the Rams, they could go edge rusher, they could go cornerback. Quarterback is also an option. I think Jerzon Newton is also an option here. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, you have Aaron Donald, but he's getting a little older. And honestly, I think just going best player available, especially on this defensive line, is going to be huge. And I think the Rams getting Jerzon Newton would make a ton of sense there. Now, the Cardinals, they could go anywhere, really. They could get any type of help they need. And now we're going to focus on the defense and not the offensive side this time. So, like, Jared Verse would make a ton of sense. Nate Wiggins would make a ton of sense. Dallas Turner. For here, I think I'm going to go... I think I'm going to go edge rusher for them and go Jared Verse. I'm going to give him Jared Verse. The Falcons are on the clock. And, I mean, I think this would be terrible if they make the playoffs because I think they need this pick. I think they need really good talent on the team still. And maybe they could be looking for a future quarterback. I don't know what their views are on Desmond Ridder still, but, who knows, right? I mean, you got some good corners. Maybe they go offensive. Maybe they go offense again. Who knows? I don't think it'd be Keon Coleman. It'd be, that'd be kind of close to Drake London. I'm gonna give him corner. Gonna give him Nate Wiggins. The Packers, I think they could go tackle. So Amarius Mims, Graham Barton make a ton of sense, right? I don't know what's the viewpoint. I don't know where they stand with David Bakhtiari. What's with him, right? Is he pretty much done? Obviously, the injuries are really catching up with him. And you can always move Zach Tom inside. So I'll give him a tackle. I'll give him Amarius Mims. The Vikings, I think they need a quarterback, and I'm gonna give him Bo Nix because I think he's the only viable first round option right now on the board. But they need a quarterback bad, right? Colts, they're in the playoffs, which is surprising, really. I think a cornerback secondary makes sense for them, especially on the outside. You have Kenny Moore in the middle or in the inside. A wide receiver could make some sense off the line. Let's give him a cornerback, though. I think right now I'm going to go ahead and give him Kalen King. The Steelers, again, they could also go cornerback. They could use a linebacker. I don't know what linebacker possibly goes in the first round right now. But I think Cooper DeJean makes a lot of sense. Or Cooper DeJean, I'm not too sure what it is. Just getting, if he can play cornerback, great. If he can play safety, even better. Like, you could really use a safety there next to Minka. I think that would make some sense. Or, again, you could use an outside corner. And the white cornerback is here. Cooper DeJean, right there with that pick. Now, the Texans are on the clock. This is the Cleveland Browns pick. And I think wide receiver can make some sense, right? I guess it depends what, is Nico Collins coming back? Because I know his contract is up soon. Obviously, Tank Dell. Hopefully he's okay because that's a dangerous thing. I really hope he can come back better next year. I think I'm going to go wide receiver. I'm going to give him Keon Coleman. The Chiefs, they need wide receiver help as well. They could go anywhere here, right? But I guess any of these guys could go first round. I don't know what my views on them are gonna be if they're first round talents or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see any of these guys go first round, right? I'm just trying to think here, man. I think Xavier Leggett, I think he could make a ton of sense for the Chiefs. He's a fast guy. He's a tall player. About 6'3", but he can run. He can put up Tyreek Hill speed. He's probably not going to top that too many times again, but he's fast for his size. And I'm going to give him Xavier Leggett. The Jaguars are now on the clock. And they could go a few places. They could go edge. They could go inside, interior. If anything, I would have tackles go inside, right? I would have tackles and move them inside more. So, like Patrick Paul, I think would make a ton of sense inside. They could use some DBs. I think that's where I'm going to go. I think I'm going to give him Cameron Kitchens. Let's give him Cameron Kitchens. And then the Cowboys are on the clock. Cornerback, linebacker, I don't know. But maybe they just go edge rusher, best player available. But I don't know if they do that. But this is definitely an interesting pick here, honestly. Leonard Taylor. Could they go another cornerback to really set that secondary group up? I think would make a ton of sense, right? They could also go safety, which I think it's a little unfortunate that Cameron Kitchens and Cooper DeJean went, but yeah, maybe Tyler Nubin, right? Maybe Tyler Nubin. They could go receiver. That's also another thing. They could go wide receiver, and that would be 6, 7 wide receivers in the first round. Mika Ibuka, I don't know what's the Brandon Cooks future situation like. Michael Gallup hasn't really looked like, this great player. Let's give him Emeka Ibuka. Yeah, let's do that. The Lions, they could use defensive line. They could use cornerbacks. I'm gonna let's give them Terrion Arnold. Let's give him Terrion Arnold. The 49ers could also use a cornerback. I mean, how many that's 1, 2, 3, 5. That's 3. Then you had Kool-Aid McKinstry. That's 4. And you have Nate. That's 5 cornerbacks in the first round. Man, I mean, it's possible, right? It is possible, but they could use some offensive line help. Let's give him a tackle. Let's give him Patrick Paul. He can move inside. He can move outside. I think that could help. The Baltimore Ravens could use a wide receiver. That's a thing too. They could use a cornerback. But let's give him an edge rusher. Let's give him Dallas Turner. I think he's kind of fallen a little bit too far. You know, obviously you love Jadeveon Clowney. He's getting a little older though, and then I think that could really help to their defense. That's been amazing this year. And then the Dolphins, a tight end, offensive line, all of that makes sense. Let's give them Graham Barton. And then the Eagles, they probably need secondary. They need anything in the secondary, I would say. And if you're looking at cornerback, safety, best player available, yeah, I would agree that. Yeah, let's give him Tyler Nubin. And that's going to end the first round draft. That went a few places I didn't expect it to go. But I'm very interested in what y'all think about this, as I just kind of went this top of mind. But again, some of the picks that I'm interested in is Rome Odunze to the Giants, Jane Daniels and Michael Penix Jr. there. Troy Fine now to the Seahawks, Drizon Newton to the Rams. I think that's an interesting pick. Obviously, Bo Nix to Vikings. And then some of these picks down here, like Emeka Ibuka, Xavier Legette, Keon Coleman. But I think this is an interesting draft. And obviously, we're so many months away, so we don't know what's really going to happen. And we don't have a clear picture on what these teams are really going for. But that's my mock drafts. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.